Our past is never where we left it. We all have scars.
If you keep this up, you're gonna die.
I just want to end their life. And anyone standing in my way.
You're intrigued by her. Curious.
We never sent anyone away who didn't have it coming.
No. I'd really like to see you again. Under, different circumstances.
These are the best circumstances you'll ever see me in.
Right, here we go, and slow-mo action. Bam. Now hold it there. So what you can do is, on Maggie, as she starts to move, right, you can go on to him and a foot does that. Go ahead of her. So start there, kind of go ahead of her. Bang! She kicks that.
You know, Martin is known for his tentpole movies, especially the Bonds, right? I knew he brought a lot in the action genre, but what I didn't expect from him was to care so much about these character relationships and character development in the film. Nothing was more important than how I felt about Sam and how he felt about me and how Michael looked at her and how she looked at him. All of that, to him, was really, the center in which the movie really pivoted around. And for him, it was like, if you don't care about these people, it doesn't matter what fight scene we throw in there. I mean, that's entertainment for dummies. We want people to watch this who really want to be challenged by these relationships.
Yeah, that was one of the nice things about this script that Richard Wenk wrote, was this relationship is a complex one, and it evolves. It's not a relationship you see a lot in movies like this, which made it fun for me.
Moving on.
Ever since I did Long Kiss Goodnight, I've always thought that, women who kick ass are like great. I like to watch it. It's become sort of a normal thing now, but back in the day, it wasn't so much. Someone who's beautiful, dangerous, and lethal always has an appeal.
The thing about these female assassin pictures is that most of the plots are very predictable. What this has, I think, which is different, is there are a lot of twists and turns in the story, surprises for an audience. Obviously a good cast with Michael Keaton and Sam Jackson and Maggie Q. And it's sort of fun. There's a kind of fun element to the whole thing as well.
Happy birthday!
No more fucking birthdays! Take birthdays and shove them up your fucking ass!
But it's really what got me was the plot, which is very intriguing. I like the characters too, and I like that kind of sense of humor, because Richard wrote some great dialogue between the characters.
Nothing sounds like this in the world. I'd almost given up hope of finding one. How in the world did you?
You taught me how to find things that didn't want to be found.
Albert King played one.
Albert King played that one.
My first task, so to speak, was to create some relationships, because I think ultimately we've seen every piece of action we could possibly see, and the ones that stand out are always the ones with characters we care about and characters we believe. So everything is heightened when you believe in someone or root for someone or is worried about someone. You don't have to create a big glossy spectacle. You could be walking on a ledge and your heart's in your throat. So I wanted to create characters that were interesting and I wanted to follow. And I was curious about it and where they would go. There's several layers to the story. There's the assassin world story. There's the personal story of a young girl in the midst of a war-torn country that violence becomes part of her and is rescued by a man of dubious means who takes her in, pretty much adopts her, and teaches her and hones her skills into the world in which he actually operates in.
I may have to go back to Vietnam. Be nice if you went with me.
I'm never going back there.
And so you have a relationship movie between like a father and a daughter in the same kind of world that we jumped 30 years into. And then also the idea that you have to go back into your past in order to avenge and the killing of your adopted father. So there was all those different layers I thought could be very tonally cool.
It's a wonderful script written by a very talented writer who's worked with Millennium, our company, before, Richard Wenk. So everyone knew that Richard's work was of a very high quality. And beyond that, an opportunity to work with Martin on a script that I knew to be this good was wonderful.
3, 2, 1, action!
Interestingly enough, they kind of sold it as the action movie that it is, and I wasn't actually interested. I mean, when I got the first pitch, I thought, you know, it's an action movie. I've done action movies before. And then when they said Martin Campbell, I think that was the magic word. I mean, I heard his name. Such an experienced director, someone whose work I really respect, and that's kind of, in that genre, that's what I'm looking for. If I'm going to do it again, I'm going to do it with the best, and Martin Campbell's one of the best.
3, 2, 1, action!
Maggie was amazing. To see her attack, you know, all the things she had to do. I mean, among the physical things she had to do, she also had all the psychological baggage she had to carry around, which was amazing to watch.
You know, you have to remember she trained under Jackie Chan, but she's also a terrific actress. You know, you don't often get the combination of somebody who is as skilled as her.
There was a lot of physicality in this role, so, you know, we have a few really big fight scenes and big wire gags. So there was a lot of physical rehearsal, and then Martin's a big rehearsal guy. He's a really big, so I did a lot of rehearsals with Martin. I did a lot of rehearsals with Michael. And then Sam I didn't get to rehearse with until Romania, until we were on location. But all the prep that we could have done, we did do beforehand. And it's nice when a director is always concerned with that chemistry. Like, what is that chemistry going to be like? What's it going to look like? And if it doesn't look the way we want it right now, let's work towards that. And so we did. We had weeks of rehearsal time before this movie started.
You fell in a pond with those, you drowned.
I fell in a pond with dolphins, my problem float away.
She's really great. She's great in this movie. I mean, she's really enjoyable. The stuff between her and Sam Jackson is really fun.
Didn't take any, huh?
Take what?
Money. It was all there, right?
We were paid to eliminate a target. We did that.
Well, $3 million dirty money, nobody's looking for. I'm just saying.
I will say that Maggie and Samuel L. Jackson really, right out of the gate, there was something between them. There was a tenderness that he had for her. There was a familiarity that she felt with him. And right out of the gate, you could tell this relationship was going to be very strong between them.
It's a really beautiful connection they have, you know, and I'm so glad it was Sam, because you don't always have connection with people, right? And with Sam, I knew it would be there. And then when we met, it was kind of immediate that we did have this connection in that way. And so, you know, it made, you know, time on set a lot easier, because I think that flow was really natural for us.
You're just gonna lay there?
He's a terrific actor. You know, one of the great things about him is he's a chameleon. He can do anything. In this, you know, he's basically playing a father. It's like a father-daughter relationship.
Did you want?
And also at the end, when he confronts the old man in the bunker, you know, he's just one of those actors that has the ability to be able to make scenes like that really sing.
I'm the big bad wolf who comes to get you when someone on this earth decides your time is up. Moody. Resurrection's a bitch, ain't it?
He is so good with dialogue, and he's got such a strong presence on the set, you know, and that gravitas and that weight and that voice. He's certainly so good with long soliloquies. You know, he can just nail it every time.
I kill people for a living. Bad people, mind you, but still, I don't pretend to be anything else. But you, front and center of a dozen high-profile charity causes, to the world you're clean as first fucking snow. Your hands are covered in shit and blood, everything from sarin gas to human trafficking.
You don't necessarily have to go to spy school or killer school to do it. You just kind of, for me, I just cobble together pieces of guys that I've seen in different movies. Some are American, some, you know, mostly Korean and Chinese films, guys who are assassins, that are very cool assassins. When you want to talk about old assassins, then you start dealing with, the older British guys who were, undercover and doing stuff like that. So you cobble together pieces of them and create a whole person from that. And you show up and hope it works.
Why do you buy your suits? Because I've got a cousin who's big and tall. He has kind of a hard time. Think about it.
When I first read Richard Wenck's screenplay, I really enjoyed it. I really had fun. I turned the pages, sounds like that's what you usually do in a script, but that's not the case. Sometimes you can set it down, walk around, and come back. This one I went through pretty quickly. Pretty smart, pretty clever, I thought. It was an opportunity for me to do something that I hadn't quite done before. Did something similar, maybe in American Assassin, but this is very different. So I was already intrigued, and I enjoyed it a lot, and I was looking forward to shooting it. It became fun.
100% was fun. Well done.
It's hard to describe Rembrandt. He's a mysterious kind of character. What you see isn't always what you get, and then it turns out it's exactly what you get. He's intelligent and realistic in that he totally understands and accepts the world in which he lives, which is, in this picture, a dangerous world. He lives among other assassins, and it was really fun to play.
He's a very organic actor. He likes to do a lot of takes, and each take really builds into a better and better and better performance. He worked really, really well with Martin Campbell to sort of find the character and work through the scene.
It almost makes him look sympathetic. Yes, but it almost starts to make him look more sympathetic. The bigger the prick he is, the more the audience is going to like when he gets it.
He plays it so truthfully. There are moments, for example, at the end where he recognizes her at the gala. Just watch his eyes. What's going on in his brain. Right? Just sort of sussing her out. And so very, very clever. You can see it all going on in the eyes, and he's a wonderful actor.
That was a long 27 minutes.
What I loved about their chemistry in this movie is they're playing a game of wits. And she's highly intelligent, and so is he. And I don't think he's ever met his match in the way that he does with her in this film. And I think that is sort of the crux of their relationship. It's who's going to get ahead of the other and how are they going to do it. And they both know that they're both capable of it. So it's that game, it's that constant game, and you never really know what's going to happen with them until literally the end of the film. You still, up to the last second, you don't know who's going to make what decision. And it becomes a really exciting type of romance. I hate to even call it a romance. It's better than that, I think.
Keep it fresh, enjoy it, mindfuck each other, and action!
I'll be with you in a second. The very first scene that we shot was the scene in the bookstore where they meet each other. And it's a pretty big scene. And in terms of its importance to the movie. And, so that I'm sure made everyone just a little bit nervous because right out of the gate, it's a very, it's a big moment.
Action.
His wife collects books, first editions.
Any particular subject?
Birds.
One of the producerial concerns was that the character of Michael Rembrandt did not appear in the script until page 50, and they felt it would be nice to get them in earlier, and I struggled with that, and then came up with the idea of the bookstore scene and the idea of introducing their chemistry. I always looked at these two characters as chess players anyway, both grandmasters, at understanding being a 3 or 4 moves ahead of the other person, and yet they're not in this scene. It's almost like I say this, I catch you on that.
So Maggie, we need to speed that up a little.
Yes.
We'll do our finals and then we're shooting.
It's intriguing to both of them. They're not used to someone being as smart as they are or as deft as they are in this situation. And that's exciting and curious and intriguing to both characters in a way.
Okay, no talking, ready, and background action.
Action.
Find you interesting.
She does take his card, and it is a real one. So the idea, before he knows she's involved and needs to be taken out or whatever that is, which he doesn't really, he's more of a fixer anyway, is that I don't meet many people like this, and I'm very intrigued. So I like the idea of sort of setting you up as an audience going, I hope I see more of that.
Never thought I'd see you here again.
Well, maybe you're not seeing me now.
Robert Patrick is also in the film as well, so I've got these sort of three men that I kind of, move seamlessly through, and the relationships are all different, but it's all kind of in the same vein, if that makes sense.
Robert Patrick, man, that was so funny, because the day I came to work and he was there, and I was like, it's Robert Patrick. Like I say, there are actors that you watched that you've always said to yourself, what would I do in a situation like this with that particular actor? And I watched Robert for so long, and it was a joyous occasion to walk up on the set and see him that day. I mean, he greeted me like he'd known me forever, and I pretty much felt the same way. I've watched him work, I've enjoyed it, and now I have, my Robert Patrick moment where I can sit and say, wow, I was in the scene with Robert Patrick. I worked with Robert Patrick. Awesome.
Thank you.
That was amazing.
I flew all the way from Hollywood.
Amazing.
I think that the movie in its totality was a challenge for me. I mean, everything, it's sort of like the culmination of everything I've already done in my career, but not at this level, right? So the heightened emotion, the heightened action, all of the complex relationships, the smart romance that kind of goes on in it. There's nothing worse to me than a dumbed down connection between two people. Like, I want to see really that sort of fireworks chemistry that comes from real intelligence.
Action!
From two people who are playing a game. That to me is very interesting on screen. And so that this movie definitely had.
The dinner scene with Maggie Q is really fun. It's old-fashioned in the best sense of the word, but also original. And this is where Richard Wenk, I thought the screenwriter really did a really good job. And it's a little bit of a timeout in the movie, very short one from the action. It comes at the right time, and I think Maggie plays it great, and this is an opportunity for me to, if you can find an opportunity to be a little bit funny, it's always, welcome.
HK 9mm.
Very good.
Not where I'm sitting.
A lot of times there aren't any relationships. They're just who's going to be alive at the end or who's going to kill the last guy. In this movie, I don't know where it's going, and I don't know what their relationship is going to be, and I kind of like them together and how they dance around one another and how curious he is about her and maybe sees a different life for himself with somebody who might want to have a different life. It's very interesting subtext to something that can be fairly a trope, and I think we try to avoid that in this movie.
You always ask like this?
Yeah, I like to have people's attention when I talk,
Well, you certainly have the attention of the boys down there.
It's a great scene. And by the way, you have to credit Richard Wenk a lot for that, because some of his dialogue was very snappy.
I don't think I caught your name.
Anna.
Pleasure.
We'll see.
To be honest, he wrote a great scene. We planned it, we went in, I shot it, I think, a day and a half, I don't remember. We did the whole scene. I tightened it a little from what it was originally there. The location it's in a hotel, right in the middle of Bucharest. So we shot it there, and it just went very smoothly. We had time to get the performances right and everything else. So it was good.
Action! All right, so we're ready to go. Action!
Martin is great. He runs the set with an iron fist. He is a very old school director, and what I mean by that is he is very decisive, very direct, and he knows exactly what he wants, and he's not shy about anything, and everybody's job is to just keep up with him. He's got a huge amount of energy. He's there before anybody else on set planning his shots. He's extremely well prepared. He's thought about everything he's doing before he does it, and he's a commander, like a proper military style commander on the set, and everybody's on board for the ride, and it's great. It's really terrific to watch someone like Martin work.
You'll have hot guns, you'll be pointed up. We cue the water when it's at full blast, okay, and it's going everywhere. The water's at full blast, action, right? what you do is you fire your guns, then you start reacting to the water, all right? You start reacting to the water, where the fuckers are coming from, with the sprinklers. You do your backing up. Where the fuck you going? Where the fuck are you going?
And Martin, he is an all-rounder. He's very strong in all areas. Again, unusual. This is Martin's unique thing. What makes Martin Martin? He very strong with the writer. He works with the writer right up to shooting.
He was so inclusive of me and so collaborative. We would meet here at my house, in my office, and for 8-10 hours a day, go through the script. I'd make the changes, we'd go through it again. When he went and scouted locations, he'd call me and said, I found this instead of that. Can we make that work? What do you think? I was able to give my opinion, whether that would upset something later or whatever, which often happens. And so it was such a lovely process to work with a talent as accomplished as he is.
With camera, very, very knowledgeable. He started donkeys years ago at the BBC, as a camera operator before he became a director at the BBC. So he knows his lenses, he knows the impact and the difference between shooting with wide lenses or long lenses or camera movement. He knows the difference between a 50 and a 65, whereas most directors might not. They'll know the difference between an 18 and 100 maybe, but the subtle differences,
He's not a coverage guy. He's actually, it's all specifically shot for this. These are specifically choreographed and framed pieces of a sequence.
Take a look and onto there and just hold that look for 1, 2, 3 beats, right? Yes. And then vroom in, and as the camera finishes, right, you exit frame sharp that way.
Great. He likes the mechanics of what's going on. He works very hard at making sure that the mechanical aspects of what are happening in a scene are kind of perfect, so that when you move the camera from here to there, the emotional arc of what we're doing fits kind of perfectly in the frame. So he trusts the actors a lot to bring what we bring, so that he can make sure that the physical drama of what the scene is for an audience member can be there. He puts it there. Detail oriented, which is great, because I sit at home and pick films apart all the time. It'd be hard to do that in one of his films.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, and then give this moment.
This moment is important. Yeah. This is like really money moment when you see that the big danger. Then right away for the chin.
Make sure you get the pretty face.
I haven't done a ton of movies like this. I mean, I was lucky to do well over half my stunts in there, which is always fun, because when you're a little kid, this is what you want to do.
Good. Yes. Pull her there. Elbow, push. Nice. Pull it and big move. Yeah. Nice. Twice. It's more than enough.
But there was just stuff that there are stunt doubles who are just better than I am at doing it, and I'd be a fool not to let them shoot some of those shots better than I can.
You can't see the joins really. He's very good, and he's not. To be honest, he'd be the first to admit that he's not as good as Maggie, because that's what she's brilliant at. But he really went for it.
3, 2, 1, action!
He worked very, very hard, and we were just very careful to make sure that we had the cuts, as it were. The angles were short in terms of when we filmed it, so when we put it together, of course, it all you know, and the maximum amount of energy.
The scene in the kitchen was a particularly fun one. It's brutal, you know, my character is badass in that scene. And the good news is most of that has to be me because of the way it was shot, which is fun because it's scary to see if you can still pull it off, you know. And I love doing that scene.
I mean, when he picks up that hammer at the end of that scene and smashes his head and rams the guy's head on the spike. But it was important to actually make him lethal, you know, to show you needed one point where you realize this guy, you know, he doesn't take any process, and that was the point of that.
Okay, everybody, let's go. Ready? We're going to go through the schedule, if that's okay. Starting with something I've never done before, day 0.
We started in January last year. COVID wasn't around at that point, or certainly wasn't a problem. So we started literally at, you know, right in the middle of winter. We were in Romania, Bucharest.
We were scouting during the months of November, December, and some of the local crew were saying, well, you're crazy shooting this stuff here, you know, because normally January, February here, it's like -20, there's snow everywhere, you know, we will see the breath, you know, there's no leaves on the trees, there's nothing tropical about Bucharest in early January, February.
The city hall is not going to approve to stop the traffic. We're going to do ITC.
Well, that's fine.
On short, like a
Those guys didn't know Romania at all. It was first time for all of them. Of course, in the beginning, they were not very positive about the experience in Romania. But, you know, day by day, we start to find a location, to see something which might work. And after a couple of weeks, Martin said, okay, it's doable. After you've seen the main locations and he agreed on them, it's doable, we can make it here.
Well, it was interesting because what you need is a production designer who is very clever about the way they do this. And we had two major locations. One was Ceausescu, who was the dictator, if you remember, in Romania before they shot him. He had a big country kind of estate with a house, which is where we made the exterior of the old man's house.
Snagov Palace, Ceausescu's Snagov Palace. We transform it in a rich guy compound in Vietnam somewhere. So we are able to turn all those interiors, to dress them, to look like Vietnam, to look colonial.
And inside were paneled rooms which we used for the scenes with Sam, which Wolf and his team all dressed rather wonderfully. And we used that for all sorts of things. We had the gala there. So the great thing was centralizing the locations that we could use for multi-purposes. We actually used Ceausescu's town villa as well, which is the one where the swimming pool is at the beginning of the movie, where she kills the three of them.
We did scout Vietnam, and that was fantastic. We went there for a week, and we found a whole bunch of locations. Now, the thought was that some things could be fudged in our main shooting location, which was actually Bucharest in Romania. So some interiors, some alley sequences that we could sort of control more easily.
We had to recreate a street from Vietnam in Bucharest in January. Originally, in the prep, that was sounding crazy, completely crazy. The biggest luck we had is that we found a location. It's a Mătasa Populară. It's a textile factory built in 1930s. And right now it's pretty run down. It's just before demolition.
Fantastic alley set that Wolf built, you know, and you know, hats off to him. It was amazing with the fruit and the vegetables and the animals, and the painted murals on the walls, and they put the thatched roofs on, and the lampposts. You know, did an incredible job. And we shot probably 4 or 5 scenes. And we shot it to pieces. We shot up and down and long and wide, and to take advantage of it, you know. And that was all shot in Bucharest. in the winter.
The toughest part for us was probably the weather. And I say that knowing how lucky we really got. So much of what we're shooting here is meant to be in Da Nang, Vietnam. And of course, we're in Bucharest in the winter. So things could have been worse.
Amazingly, luck was on our side. I don't know, what happened, but the weather gods were with us. And for most of January, we didn't get any sort of precipitation at all. It was freezing. It was very cold. But, you can hide that.
We had one night right before a major exterior shot of Vietnam, our big street scenes with our markets and our vendors and motorbikes and bicycles and extras and people and animals, and we had pigs and chickens and geese.
The weather was fine. We went to sleep one night, woke up, and it had turned to Romania. It was like 3-4 inches of snow out there. It's like, hey, what happened? We were supposed to be shooting some Vietnam shit that day. So it was like, okay, I guess we're not shooting that.
It still looked a little bit like Vietnam, but covered in snow, it wasn't going to work. So we had a big schedule change on that day, and we had to find other things to do, which we did.
Now, of course, COVID came about when we were about 2/3 of the way through the shooting, and everyone was starting to get a little bit nervous, and we still had probably a week to shoot.
Really, we got out of Romania the day before they closed it. So we had the night shoot. We finished at 5:30 in the morning, rushed for the hotel, grabbed our bags, rushed to the airport, and got out the next day. I think it was a Sunday, they were closing the place. Got to London. We had a week in London, and you probably recognize a couple of bits of London, apart from the aerial shot. There's the where she drives up in a cab, and actually Sam's mansion was also, the country house was England. So we did 3 days there, but COVID was rapidly, dictating everything.
They started closing the airports, and the film industry in England just collapsed. It closed down overnight. Everybody stopped shooting. But our plan was to then go on to Vietnam, right? That was the plan. But because of the COVID thing, it all happened in this last 3 weeks. Vietnam closed down. They just they just closed down their borders, and so we had to close our movie down for a couple of months actually. We got out of London just by the skin of our teeth. We were on the last plane.
So we got back to LA, and I edited with Angie totally remotely.
He and I probably only live about 5 miles from each other, but we each worked in our own homes, worked remotely, completed the director's cut completely working remotely, and eventually they decided it was safe to go shoot the remainder of the film.
Because of the COVID issues and the travel restrictions, a second B plan was to go to the Dominican Republic.
But at that time, the logistics of getting the crew to those locations and with COVID, it just was going to be impossible. So they found a way to cheat Bulgaria for Vietnam.
Yeah, so we went back for a month, the month of September, with a greens department and several trucks full of rubber plants and banana trees and stuff like that. And the river, that was shot in Bulgaria. I got a bunch of photographs from the Scout and photoshopped some of those Sugarloaf Mountains in the background that the visual effects department then sort of copied and put into the moving shot. All the stuff with her on the boat was shot in Bulgaria. There's a night scene in the rain that was all fudged. So that was a great lesson to us all,
It worked out pretty well. I was very nervous about it, but with an appropriately placed practical palm tree here and there, and then with the assistance of visual effects, I think it sells Vietnam perfectly.
I guess we'll be seeing each other real soon then.
Sooner than you'd think.
It was fun. It was hard. Most movies, if you're trying to make them as best you can, are hard.
I mean, it is fun. I mean, I didn't expect this movie to be as funny as it is. I mean, you have Michael, who's a brilliant comedic actor, Sam as well. It's so well written. Richard Wenk is just, one of the best writers in Hollywood.
Aw. You really believe you're going up?
Don't you?
And you're talking about a great combo. You have a combination of a great script. You have these wonderful talents. And so the comedy's always going to come out. The movie never takes itself too seriously until it's supposed to.
You owe it to Moody to stay alive.
I know what I owe him.
You know, when you're dealing with serious themes, you're in it. But when you're having a light moment, you're also in it.
It's good stuff. She's good.
And that's very hard to do. You know, those transitions are hard to do, but it happens organically in this movie, and I think that's what excites me the most about it, is that you're gonna have all these experiences within it, and they're all gonna feel authentic.
When I started this, I was curious, and then I went from curious to concerned.
And now?
I'm testy.
The thing about this movie, it's a real movie. It's enjoyable for that reason. There's things that happen that aren't going to happen in the average person's life, and that's why the average person, like you and I, like to go see these things. So Maggie Q, she's great. I can't say enough about her, and Sam is always great, you know.
These films are a bloody tough shoot, really, because in order to make them good, you just have to go the extra mile, you know, which means the way you prep it, the way the people you hire to do it, everybody across the board. First of all, my producer, Moishe Diamond, is excellent. His version was, you need it for the film, you should have it, right? And Avi Lerner is very good as well from Millennium. He backed us, and he's a friend now, and he was really supportive. So thanks to those people, I guess, and a terrific crew and everything else. We sort of, I hope, pulled off an entertaining movie.
There's an ensemble of actors that are doing this film that make it worth seeing. As entertainment goes, it doesn't get any better than this, and that's why we go to the movies, to be entertained. I do. And there's some wonderful things that happen. There's some wonderful performances. And hey, what else you do?
It is a ride. I mean, you've got great sexy dynamics, relationships. There's a lot of humor in the script, but there's some really pretty heavy themes that do make you think and do, you know, allow you a real emotional experience. I mean, I cried when I watched this film. I really did, because her journey it's harrowing and it's sad, but you know, you want her to come out. You do. You want her to get out of, you know, the situation she's in. And, you know, you'll see if she does or she doesn't.